Hi, my friend. This is Dan Riley for the Mountain Community. Celebrate with you the passage of Thomas Merton, now some 50 years ago. A significant teacher for many throughout the world, an author of renown because he was so deep in his understanding of the Christian and other religious traditions that he was able to create within himself, and then in his writings, his books, his dialogues with others, a dialogue between traditions, among peoples. Thomas Merton was for a while at St. Bonaventure University. He began his life in France, born there near the end of the First World War, and was educated initially in France, then later in England, completing a degree at Columbia here in our own United States in New York City. He came off and on to Olean, New York, with a friend of his, Robert Lax, who he met at Columbia, and to St. Bonaventure University. Chance to meet Father Irenaeus and Father Tom Plasman, and eventually become very close with Father Philotheus Boehner, from whom he gained a great understanding and knowledge of Franciscan spirituality and philosophy. He deepened a sense of the world within him and around him with a study with this renowned Franciscan. He treasured learning and education, and he'd been in a number of institutions. But near the end of his life, he talked about the responsibility we all have to learn, and to learn in a way in which we're becoming women and men who are gifts for the world, who have something to offer others. And so as we remember Merton's time in the world and his passage, let me read a little bit from one of his books and an essay in the book Love and Living. And this is an essay called Learning to Live. For me, it's a treasure, and it points to some of what we're learning about our life at St. Bonaventure University, and I believe our life here at the mountain, and I believe what it means to be human in today's world. Still my own journey, still a challenge before me, and possibly before you. The inner journey and the outer journey between us, ourselves and with ourselves and others. Merton says life consists in learning to live on one's own, spontaneous, freewheeling. To do this, one must recognize what is one's own, to be familiar and at home with oneself. This means basically learning who one is and learning what one has to offer to the contemporary world. And then learning how to make this offering valid. So there's this significant journey of discovery that brings us more and more to the place of knowing what it is you and I have to offer others. Not just discovering facts or figures or things that we can describe and write down, but rather what we might live out with others in a gift-giving way, in a way of building a new world and creating a new world order. Merton, as a monk, was very conscious of this and understood monasticism as a way and its very purpose to help women and men as monks, nuns, move into a place of solitude in a community that treasured that, to deepen their own ongoing discovery, their ongoing meaning through education. The purpose of education is to show a person how to define themselves authentically and spontaneously in relationship to their world. Interestingly here, not to impose a prefabricated definition of the world, still less an arbitrary definition of the individual himself. So the sense in which we might be an imposter, we might take on another's definition of ourselves, or one that we come up with because it seems more popular or conventional or convenient, or that our world reality around us is a little more at ease if we define it this way, might take us into a place of something that is less than true or valid. So this ongoing journey towards truth is quite wonderful because it's liberating. It takes us to the core of who we are and what is possible, the core of what our real relationships are with each other and what we might become for each other. It's the heart of what love is. Love comes from truth, truth from love. The discovery of what is, and then embracing the who and the what of what is. This wonderful journey of knowing that we are one in that truth and in that journey. Merton completes this little essay with a lovely little passage, if I can find it, that's a very short paragraph. It's a wonderful essay. It takes us into a sense notion. Well, here's another one. One must not forget the dimension of relatedness to others. True freedom is openness, availability, the capacity for gift. But we must also remember the difficult dialectic of fidelity to others and fidelity to oneself requires to break through the veils of infidelity, which, as individual egoists or as a selfish community, we set up to prevent ourselves from living the truth. So he tracks it back to the truth and the artificial and ways in which we might not be truly ourselves. His indication over and over again is so natural and so real. That's unsatisfying, not enjoyable. We might say not happy. And if the journey of human life is truly, as Jesus said, that our joy might be complete, that we might come to happiness, Merton has something for us here. And he does close this little essay with a final paragraph. He says, the function of a university, we might say any institution of learning, our own very life, is to teach a person how to drink tea. Not that because anything is important, but because it's usual to drink tea, or for that matter, anything else under the sun. Whatever you do, every act, however small, can teach you everything, provided you see who it is that is acting. So again, this wonderful return to the reasons why you and I would take time and quiet and look at and listen to our relationships with ourselves and others in the world, to find the truth of what is and delight in it, to sip tea or drink another beverage and come to the bottom of the truth, the fullness of the glass, the completeness of a cup, amazed at what God has given us in the life we have. Thomas Merton, who died 50 years ago, December 10th, was a man who treasured life and drank it to its full. May we too relish our lives, and may we celebrate our lives with one another. Pax et bonum, peace and all good. Travel well your own path, and learn the depth of your own goodness, and offer the gift of who you are to a world that badly needs you.